is Ryan Miller, and for the past 15 years, I've helped hundreds of people to raise millions of dollars for their funds and for their startups. If you're serious about raising money, launching your business, or taking your life to the next level, this show will give you the answers so that you too can enjoy your pursuit of making billions. Let's get into it. If you want to start, grow, or exit a business, you will need to raise capital. So in this week's episode of Making Billions, I have the most legendary capital raiser and my dear friend, Oren talk about what it takes to raise capital. So the question is, what will you do differently to bring life-changing capital into your business? All this and more coming right now. Here we go. Hey, welcome to another episode of Making Billions. I'm your host, Ryan Miller, and today I have my dear friend and legendary capital raiser, Oren. Oren is the managing partner of Intersection Capital and the founder of OK Stone. He's raised over $400 million throughout his career and wrote all about it in his books, Pitch Anything and Flip the Script, which are two of the most groundbreaking books in raising capital. So what this means is that Oren is about to walk us through what's working today on raising capital, finding investors, and closing the right deals so that you too can become a titan in this industry. So Oren, welcome to the show, man.
Well, I really appreciate that warm welcome. I really like being part of this Making Billions community, and I'm just excited to be talking to the fans and the listeners of Making Billions. The only sad thing is I have to talk to you in order to talk to the fans. If the listeners were just here, we could bypass you and go direct to the people. So thank you. I'm really enjoying being part of this community. Just authentically appreciate the chance to be with you guys.
That's awesome, man. It's a privilege to have you here, brother. And you're a man of the people. I love it. How did you become an expert in this industry, and how did you even get started in this?
I don't think I got started. I got stopped. This is like, whatever the song is, I fall down. I fall down, I get up again. That's how I got started, right? I fall down, I get up again. It's a great question. By the way, this is a professional podcast. Like, I have a podcast that I do from time to time. We're restarting it here in the studio, and I start my podcast in the following way. What's our subject today? So this is very professional, and I enjoy being part of this. So let's deliver the heat here. So I got started in this. I had a guy that I worked for, colleague of mine and a friend, and he started being extremely successful in acquiring real estate and companies to the point where he needed some help, right? And he said, I need somebody who's fast on their feet, is good at is a silver-tongued devil, can do math, and I can bring in to the business without worrying about him. So he brought me in and he showed me the kind of deals he was making. Right? And so what he was doing is he was looking for an asset to buy, either a company or a property. And then what he would do is he would line up the debt. So he would line up, say, $12 million of debt. And then, of course, you need to show up with some equity. So it'd be my job to get the equity. And so tying up the asset and getting the debt commitment took a bunch of money, and he would front all that money. The problem with all that is he would leave me no time to get the equity, like 30 days. He's like, you have to show up with $4 million of equity in 30 days. Click. Just like one of these iconic guys that only texts in all caps, 5 words, right? And then almost like this Charlie's Angel shadowy character, never met in person. He's a good guy, but a little bit quirky. And then he would just go, you have 30 days to show up with $4 million. Click. Like, what are you talking about? Right. And so then I had to figure out, so most teams, the word is team, had like 90 days to collect that amount of money as a team. And so in a cold start, and so I had to just figure it out because there was so much pressure on me. He would probably have between $250,000 and $750,000 up hard. Like, so if we didn't show up with the equity, he'd lose it. So then I had to figure out how to raise equity quickly, baptism by fire. And we just we were just talking to like Kirk Cousins, the Vikings quarterback, maybe not a great quarterback, definitely old, but he finds ways to win games. So maybe that's what you could call me, like old and not great, but found a way to get it done. So every deal I would figure a way to get the 4 million, 12 million, 6 million, 8 million of equity. And that's really where my skill set came from, is being under the gun to find real money to close deals.
Man, phenomenal. So how did you transition into, I would say, mastery? Like, what happened to this guy? How did you move and become the guy?
So I think we talked about it a little bit before, but so we were on a deal, and I really needed the money from the closing. I was trying to buy a house. I hadn't made any money, because there's long spaces of time when you work on deals between you make no money. So I really needed the money on the deal.
Yeah.
I think my part of the deal was probably $250,000, right? And so my cash reserves are dwindling away. We had everything going on the deal, and the counterparty, the guys selling it, were being difficult on the closing, right? There was daylight between us and we couldn't get it closed, but I was pretty confident like we were going to get it there. And so I was using Outlook then, and I remember, I'll never forget, it went ding, and I see an email from my partner, all caps, in the subject line, lose my number, 3 words. And I'm like, okay, well, I got to see what's in this email. Nothing in the email, no body, just subject line, lose my number, to the seller, right? And so I came from my dad was an academic. I came from a pretty traditional business background, almost, sub-lawyer in my training, very linear, traditional, conservative kind of business training. And in a deal in which millions of dollars are moving back and forth, and I am going to make $250,000 or zero, I just see an email, all caps, lose my number. I'm like, this deal has died. And I'm like, I am so, just one of those, like, grab my head, rocking it back and forth, talking to my girlfriend, and then later became my wife. I'm like, we're toast, find a refrigerator box that we can move to, because that's where we now live. And so as I'm groaning and moaning and being like, why, how did I knew it. I knew this was going to happen. I hear another ding, right? I'm like, okay, here's the F you, how dare you, email coming through from the other side, and their email. So the subject line is still lose my number, but they've now put information in the body. And then, and so what they've written is, I'm like, here comes the knife, the silver tipped knife through the heart of the vampire, and I'm dead, right? Here it comes. And they write, we're so sorry. Like, really appreciate your patience as we sort out stuff on our side. No problem. We're going to close. We'll release escrow. We're going to close a deal, right? And so we're excited to be in business with you. I'm like, how did we get there from lose my number to we're sorry? I'm like, this is, like I said at Camden earlier, I was like, I reached in the back of the closet to grab a sweater to put on because it was chilly outside. I saw a little door. I slid the door open, and Narnia was back there. Flying tigers and spaceships and magic and, dragons and castles. I'm like, what is back here? And then I slid through there. And so the partner I had was just a very unusual business character. And a dozen things like that happened, right? Where all different in nature. I'm like, what is he doing? How do you tell somebody, lose my number, and then they reply, I'm sorry, right? Let's close this $12 million deal where you make $2.5 million. So that's how I got into this world of being able to do it the way I do it, because I was an understudy to somebody who was a natural at closing deals.
Man, phenomenal work, and good for him. He sounds like quite the character too. So you certainly baptism of fire on that one, man. Holy smokes!
Oh Jesus! And not everything he did was perfect. So it wasn't like, I could just follow. Just call him, John around and be like, he gets coffee with light creamer in it. Okay, secret to deal making. He drives around in a Rolls Royce. We live in a little beach town in Southern California, right? Like, it's basically every single car is a Toyota 4Runner or a pickup truck. Because that's, what's a beach town? We have a 4Runner, and he's rolling around in this, like, ghost green Rolls Royce. And I'm like, it's so weird, John. So you can't just follow him around and do everything. Like, you have to pick and choose the things that are working. So, for example, when we would go to Vail or to conferences or whatever, he would talk to everybody, right? Be like, what are you working on? And just randomly, bump people on the ski lift. What are you working on? Yeah, let's change numbers, right? We talked to 300 people like that and never did a single deal. That's why I don't randomly talk to strangers on trains, planes, ski lifts, bars, anything like that. Because my experience is what we do is so specific. We never do a deal with somebody we meet like randomly, but so I learned, not to do that. But he did have some incredible business tools that I absorbed. And then later they became part of Pitch Anything, which is now part of, American deal-making culture. And I think there was a question in there somewhere. The answer was longer than the question, but somewhere in there is something.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love it. And I appreciate you telling that story. So I'm getting visuals of this guy. So lucky you. And yes, if you're following him around and getting the same coffee and driving the same cars, that's a little more than understated. Yeah.
We closed a deal. Like the list of things not to do is longer than the list of things to do, by the way. So I give myself credit for like finding the gems of what I learned to do from following him around. But so we closed a deal and he bought an Aston Martin DBS, like a V12, one of the first ones that came out. This would have been like 2005, 2006. But he ordered it in this custom like bamboo, baby shit green, bamboo beige top with like I don't say bamboo, like a custom bamboo dashboard, right? And like the ugliest, I'm like, what the fuck? What is this, right? And so he drove the car for one day and hated it. Like waited 9 months for it to be built, shipped from England, serial number 3333, baby shit green. So I bought it from O'Gara in Beverly Hills. One day, takes it back to them, goes, I hate this car, right? And they're like, yeah, we'll give you like $60,000 for it. Like it's baby shit green. Like what do we do with it? So he's like, I don't care. Like whatever, just take it back. Give me $60,000. So then they take that car. I'm going to land the plane here. Ready? They take that car and they give it to Entourage, the TV show. And so the Aston Martin you see driving around Entourage is, you don't care about the color because it's filmed, right? That was our car, right? That we had for one day. And they had so little money in it, right? They had $60,000 in it. They gave it to the show Entourage and got all the promotional on the end of show scroll, right? And on the bragging rights of being on Entourage. So that's where that car ended up. So those were the things not to do. There were a lot of good things to do.
Awesome. Well, the success of Entourage, we can owe it to one of your earlier mentors. But, that's just where you got started and you did all these things. But now let's talk about a little bit of Oren Klaff and his empire, finance empire, we'll say. What are some of the things that you're up to? I mean, bring us up to speed, bring us into your world.
Yeah. So we run a finance group. If you run a finance group, right, mainly what you do is you go to conferences, you make very serious phone calls, you network with people, you go to networking events, you make, stoichiometric economic presentations to small, to business groups, right? And that all sounds wonderful and enjoyable, except I hate that, right? So what I like doing is hanging out with celebrities, having a beer, driving. Yeah, you can't see it here, but I can flip it over. I have, a pretty big car and motorcycle collection. I like doing that. I like going on motorcycle rides with Jay Leno and doing fun, automotive related stuff. My son plays hockey. I like going to his hockey games. I do not like going to business conferences and, making presentations on the economic predictions that don't happen anyway. So what I do is I help companies understand Pitch Anything, how to do the things in Pitch Anything to help them drive revenue. When a company drives revenue, right, then because of the things that you've showed them how to do. So if the revenue is stuck, as you know, and you help show them some things to drive revenue, they aloft you to godlike status, right? And you're very important to the company. And then they go, listen, and these are 20, 30, $40 million companies. This is last summer, a $25 million company. I helped them drive revenue. And they go, can you help us, raise some capital for the growth? Because now we're growing. If you're in a capital efficient technology kind of business and you grow, growth generally requires capital. You just don't have technology companies, self-funding and grow. So can you raise us, $5, 10, $15 million? And I go, even better than that. I'll raise you the money and I'll put some money in myself, right? And I'll acquire a piece of the company. So I went out to I wrote up the deal, went out to some colleagues, and in 20 days got $20 million for the company. We closed from a dead stop to putting $20 million in. We did it in 30 days, acquired a significant piece of the company. And, that was like a feather, so those activities I do is help get the trust and insider relationship with high quality growth companies by helping them drive revenue, right? Because that's really the only way you can earn, I feel like, trust with somebody very quickly. Then they ask me to do something in capital markets. And I go, hey, I'd like to put in some of my own money and be part of the deal. Because they have this good experience with me before. They're like, great. I go find them the money in a small unionized consortium. We put the money in, own a piece of the deal, and then try and continue to help that company drive revenue till it can go public or exit. So that's what I do. If that made any sense at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I know what you're saying is like, hey, do you do one a week? Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. $20 million a week is about my pace, except no. Like you could do like 2 a year. So I closed that one last year. At the beginning of this year, I started another deal with a $400 million Italian company. We formed a joint venture. It took me a while to like study the deal, understand it, get inside of it, have a relationship with the CEO. It's a 60-year-old company. Just in Venice, just outside of Venice, manufacturing technology. We inked a deal. And then where are we now? So we're August on July 1st, like I announced the deal to my network. And like on July 2nd, I got a $5 million commitment. So, inked that deal, got that money in. So anyway, like but that's the stuff I do is find deals, build a relationship from my, credibility and credentials and hopefully integrity and track record and blah, blah, blah. And, funny jokes and nice person. And then I go find money for those deals out of my network. Once I have enough money in for my network, and the deal is stabilized enough, then I can go outside capital and take in more capital from cold outsiders once my inside money is in the deal, improving the quality of the deal. So that's what I'm up to. I think that was probably too long an answer, but that's how my business functions. But I think what's in there for people, if you want to take away, is like trying to get into deals cold with a small amount of money is very difficult. You've got to figure out how to build this like very high quality relationship with management and the shareholders if you want to show up with a small amount of money or no money and get into a deal.
Brilliant. Yeah. So for those who listen to the show and have followed me and Oren, we talk about the philosophy is through my own experiences. It's similar to what Oren talked about, and we boil it down into something not to restate because nothing needs to be restated. But the spin on this is what we talk about. The two most valuable assets in your possession of any fund manager, entrepreneur, is your reputation and your relationships. And so as you enhance your reputation and relationships, much like Oren does, I mean, you didn't put it that way. I certainly did. But what he's saying is like, I've built this reputation, this relationship, my integrity. These aren't things that I've done by accident. I'm totally putting words in your mouth. But what he's done is he leverages those, and building a reputation, building your relationships allows you to navigate through these deals. Now he's gotten there, and Oren is, one of the legendary ascended masters in capital raising, we'll say. But in all seriousness, what he's done is he's put together these principles, written them in a book that you can see behind me here. He's written them in 2 books, Pitch Anything and Flip the Script. And through those, a lot of them, and I've read them, a lot of them do outline many things. But at the core, I love how you filled in the gaps of saying, it's really reputation and relationships is really how I prime the pump on deals. So when I make a call versus someone going in cold with no reputation, no relationships, no money, it's really, really tough. But if you follow a lot of the things that Oren teaches, then we start to move it up in a very different and unorthodox way. And that's why you are who you are and you break away from the pack. So absolutely inspiring.
The benefit of that is, we have a new guy here. And he's like, hey, can you teach me your CRM system? Like where you keep all the leads, right? And I'm like, well, I just look if I'm looking for new business, I just look at my Gmail and see what's in there. He's like, yeah, but you get like I do 30, 40, 50 Gmails a day. Like what happens if somebody's asking new business with you, if a lead comes in and goes below the fold? I'm like, well, I don't know. Then I don't do it. It's like, well, that's not possible. You have to like keep your leads. I'm like, no, if they want to work with me, like I don't get to it. I get to email back. Right. So he's like, no, but like where does that go? I'm like, I don't know. Call Gmail. I don't know where the fuck it goes. Like, it's like below where I can see it. It goes into the internet. I don't know. And so the benefit of, having that reputation is that people want to work with you. And so I'll extend that a little bit further. So I'll get an introduction from, so I help a guy close a deal. I help the guy sell his company for $42 million a couple of years ago, and he loves the work that I did. And so he, sends over a referral. And they say, hey, Dave said you did a great job for him selling his company. I want to sell my company. Very interested. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself? I'm like, well, yeah, no. And he's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, you don't have the internet? Like, just type O in like your browser and it will auto-complete Oren Claff. And then you can like half the internet is already about like, you can't, like you came to a phone call. Like, honestly, guy, you came to a phone call, right? I'm the easiest guy in the world to diligence, right? And like, I don't work with lazy CEOs and executives, who don't do any basic diligence and want me to do their work for them. It's a horrible way to start a relationship. So no, I can't like tell you anything. And then I'll throw some frosting on it. I'm like, also like, can you afford a microphone? Because you're on your laptop on the Zoom call and it sounds like horrible. Like what is that even, what is that laptop? Right. And they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like my Mac, because my assistant has it. And this is the old Dell that I'm using. So, they're apologizing to me like, yeah, I should have looked you up. I'm like, yeah, like if you want to just reset this call next week and do it professionally and I'll do some research. I'll get my laptop. There's a guy running an $80 million company that thought he was going to come in and show me what time it is. The point is, I think maybe there's no point. Maybe the point is Oren Klaff is a big asshole, but I don't think that's the point. I think the point is that when you have a reputation and you have integrity and you have a belief system and then you have values and you are integral to your values and people come in and they immediately are playing the game outside of the way you like to live your life, you should be comfortable calling them out. Like who doesn't come to a phone call and experience this? Like, hey guys, really great to be at the meeting, very interested in working with you. Oh, did you read the brief? Oh, no, I want you to start at the beginning. Didn't have a chance to go through it, right? And so 90% of people will go, oh, okay, great. Let me pull it up. I'll talk you through it, but in your heart, you're like, why would I work with these guys? Like I prepared a brief, sent it over to them a week ago, right? Put a lot of work and energy into it. They asked me to do that work and then they proceeded to not read it. And now they're wasting the time that we have on the call in which we could be making progress, asking me to read them the brief that I prepared at their request. Who are these jerks, right? And so then you can clarify and you go, okay, well, my value system is I don't call people jerks. Right? You can say, hey, just want to check in. Like, did you have a baby? Which I understand. Did your house flood? So, because I understand that, and things happen. Things happen to me. I miss calls. I don't read briefs. But is this like who you are? And if we work together, is this just like you think you own? You're the customer. You put $1 into something we're doing together, and now you think you own us and cannot read briefs, waste time on phone calls, reset stuff, and I'm going to be seeing this behavior for the next 2 years until we fire each other? Or is this just like a one-time thing that got dorked up? And so that's what you really want to say, but you're afraid to say it. But if you have a reputation, you have integrity, you have values, and you're known for something, then you can say these things from a place of honesty, right? Because then if somebody says, well, yeah, I mean, that's what we do. Like we ask for briefs, we don't read them, we come to calls late, we order around, we pay you $1, we expect you to work, 40 hours a week on only our account. And then eventually we get so frustrated, we just fire you and you make no money. And you're like, oh, well, okay, then I probably won't want to work with you. Or if they go, yeah, man, I'm so sorry we had a baby, which like people have babies all the time. Like, yeah, I know it sucks. I had a baby. You're up at night. You forget to do things. That's one thing I learned from, John is have a set of values. And that's what Lose My Number was really about, right? It's like, you have pushed me beyond my breaking point. 99 out of 100 people, will be focusing on the 2.5 million that we're going to make and be like, hey, wait another day. No big deal. What's 24 hours against $2.4 million? But what John taught me is like, if you have values and you stick politely and honestly and authentically with integrity to those values, then you can always be in control. And now you don't have the illusion of control, you have actual control. And that's the big thing that I think I help people do is have control of every deal, not control of people, right? Because you don't want, can you control people? Sure. Can I show you like 9 things to control somebody? Sure. What's the joy in that, right? What's the joy in controlling, forcing somebody, backing them into a corner, making them do a deal? I can do that all day long. No fun in it, no joy in it. But what I do want control of is the deal, right? Because you can ask me, and I'll finish up here, but you can ask me to bend over backwards. You can ask me to lose money, or spend money. You can ask me to delay. You can ask me to do all kinds of things, which I can acquiesce to. But you can't ask me to be a bad business person, and you can't ask me to bend or break my values in order to do business with you. And if I hold those 2 things as my anchor, then I control the deal.
That's absolutely right. And so coming from a place of value, so the 2 takeaways on this, Oren, number 1 is be very clear on your values. And that also, I would arguably say that ties into your reputation is a function of where you value. The other one is be careful who you work with and be smart about it, man. So there's people that will just, as I like to say, they'll run your clock, they'll waste your time, they'll drag things out, they won't read briefs, they'll do all these things. And you're like, come on, dude. And then if you value integrity, that typically means you show up on time, you do what you're asked and all these things. I've had experiences, man, even recently where people talk about, I know how to tank the company and I'm going to do all this stuff. And I basically told them to F off and didn't make me a lot of friends, but I slept great at night. And so, folks, I want you to really reflect on what Oren and myself are talking about right now is that your reputation and, more importantly, your integrity, especially in this business, matters. That's number 1. And number 2, the other thing that matters a lot is who you choose
to work with. So don't just hear a big number and turn your brain off. Stick to your morals. Be that person that you wish you are or you already are. Just be a better version. Work with the right people. And now you got a fighting chance of actually closing and doing good deals and coming out the other side with a better reputation than when you went in and better relationships than when you went in.
Yeah. I mean, I think also like this word values, I think people can get confused about, because if I say to someone, what are your values, right? They read me the Bible, right? Like, I'm honest. I don't bang my neighbor's wife. I tithe to the church, and I'm good to the word, and the word is my bond. And, so they just sort of read every, God-fearing value from the Old Testament, New Testament, Quran and Book of Mormon. And they list it out, and they're like, no, like, not how do you be a Mother Teresa is not what I'm asking, right? What I'm asking is like, what is core to the way you do business? And everybody should have a different answer. Like, so for example, I have colleagues that hate it when people lie to them, right? And it triggers them. They're instantly all over it, and they're like, I love it, not love it. I'm totally accepting when somebody lies to me, because I encourage it. Once I hear it, I'm like, yeah, tell me more about that, because I want to see like how far they'll go. And how crazy pants, what crazy pants lie mine, did this come from, right? And so I'm not sure. People lie to me all the time. It's just, I don't like to confront them on it. I just let it, pass over me. I try and wiggle out of that deal or relationship, and I let the lies fly. Other people are like very combative. So that's a value system, which is some people hate being lied to. Me, I don't mind. So, there's other things, part of my values are, not even like showing up on time, because I blow a lot of calls. I come late. I probably, come late to some calls with you. Sometimes I come early. I'm super busy. I try and do the best I can. So like my value is not like 100% showing up on time. It's not like one of my highest values. One of my highest values is if there's like something like that we've set that needs to happen, 2 weeks from now, and there's plenty of time to do it, and it just shows up undone with no notice, that freaks me out, right? Because I'm like, my projects have multiple milestones, many touch points, complex integration points. And if you're responsible for the delivery of a financial model that describes a deal that's critical for us to present to the bank, and we're relying on having 2 days to review it, and it's not done, when you've had 2 weeks, like that triggers me, because, get into why. So I think the point is, you got to say, like, what is it that are your actual meat and potato things that you can live with, and what you can't live with. And therein lies your system. Because what happens is now you have a real system. You're like, hey man, is that how it works? You show up with stuff that's supposed to be done, and you just don't give any fair warning, and you just go ahead and get it done in time, right? Because if that's how it's going to be with you, I cannot work with you. We might enjoy hanging out at Thanksgiving. We might send each other Christmas cards. We might go to the surfing together, but we cannot work together, right? So you can't just say my values are every 500 things in the Mother Teresa, we do and listen to the Bible. It's got to be something you're like, if that's how you work, I don't care how much money I could make, I'm out. And there's your value system.
I love that. So would you recommend that that's a great place to start, is just figure out what is that core value system as far as business goes, just to help them start to raise capital and do good deals, is just figuring out.
Yeah, because it allows you to do the zero risk takeaway, right? FOMO. We talked about FOMO. Like, how do you do FOMO? Well, it's a takeaway, fear of missing out, right? So, hey, Ryan, I need you to make a decision by September 15th. That's 2 weeks from now. Are you in or out? Super high stakes, because I think I can close, Ryan, in 30 days, no pressure. Ryan has the money. I can close his ass. It's just, if I just eggshell him, not get him upset. He's a cool guy. He's got lots of stuff going on. No need to like get him all flustered with some kind of hard deadline, because he could have a really negative reaction to that, right? So that's why you don't do it. But if I say to myself, listen, this is a startup. Startups don't sit around running around. This is not, I'm not working at a startup, but just hypothetically, startups don't run around for 3 months, trying to raise $2 million. It's a 30-day thing, right? So you say you understand startups. You say you have, capital. You say you've had an exit. You say you're like at the speed of, you work the same as Silicon Valley. You say you know all those guys. You say you know a bunch of founders who went full exit, right? Well, then you understand startups fund themselves in 30 days. They don't sit there, for 6 months screwing around trying to talk to money. So the takeaway is zero risk, right? where I can just say, hey man, we are working on startup timelines. Like if you can understand that and you want to be on that timeline and you can see yourself closing this in 30 to 35 days, I'll let you in the deal. If you're, and it happens, guys say they're a startup guy, but they really function with like private equity or institutional mentalities, which is fine. It's not illegal. It's just not for us. But if you really are a startup guy and you really can function on startup timelines, let me know, and then we can process this thing. But we're going to be out here. We've been doing this for 2 weeks. September 15th is 30 days. That's like 5 days away from my absolute limit when I'm willing to work with someone on a $2 million piece. So now, because I pulled in my value system and my understanding of norms in this industry, and then I apply them to you, right? Now I can turn the screws on FOMO because I'm applying a standard, and I'm applying a belief system, and I'm applying my values on a hard close. So there's no risk to me. So now I'm running a hard close on Ryan with zero risk to myself. Because I'm like, well, fuck it. If the guy is like a 50-day close, he's going to be a pain forever. He's never going to be behaving like a startup guy. He's going to be behaving like an institutional guy. And I don't want those guys in my deals. And you know what? This is the largest economy on earth. It's the most functional capital markets. It has the most amount of investment capital, the most amount of, people who are interested in entrepreneurialism. Ryan is one, fish in the sea of many. If he doesn't want to behave in a normal startup framework, then he is occupying. I don't know how you got sucked into this accusation, Ryan, but just because you're the only other person on the call, that's what happened. Yeah, this is Ryan alternate universe. But like I have zero risk in pulling the takeaway because and then ultimately you have to be okay for Ryan to go, hey, like I can't do it. It's too fast for me. Great, right? And then it's done. And when you say great and you don't try and close him further, now you're building integrity for yourself. And you go, great, I set a deadline. The deadline was reasonable, right? I held the moral authority frame. I held my values. It was completely fair. These are industry standards. I held Ryan accountable to the industry standards. He couldn't meet my standard. Why should I have lower standards than like the middle of the industry? And he's out, right? And having done that, A, it's zero risk to yourself. And B, you've built this like incredible integrity machine inside of you. And like, wow, I can hold my own integrity. This is fucking amazing. I can actually be true to myself and live.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
If you're in like, I don't know, Slovenia or Darfur or Belgian West Congo, maybe you get like that's specific to our economy. Because I can go find another 10 Ryans, on LinkedIn tomorrow. So maybe you can't pull that shit in, Dingfao, China, or wherever, because they don't have as much as functioning of a capital markets as we have here. But over here in USA, America, you could do that all day long because there's plenty of people to talk to. Anyway, hey Ryan, how would you like to have your show back? I turn it back over to you.
No, this is wonderful. So, the lessons or the takeaways that we talked about, these are some of the things that I teach as well, Oren. So thank you for just being a herald. What I'm hearing, there's many things, and this is an episode I'm going to be listening to many, many times. What we're saying is, you know what? It's okay. All I thought about is me in the early days, 15 years ago, when I started pitching. I was young. I was trying to be too nice. I was flexing on anything. I just wanted to accommodate, right? Excellent customer service that raised $0. So I was accommodating. I was polite, right? Yeah, I gave excellent customer service to people who never funded anything that I brought to them, but they liked having me around. Yeah, I was a help desk.
Help desk. Yeah,
that's what I was. And deep down, I do enjoy helping people at some level. Of course, why not? But
that's the problem.
That is the problem, right? And that can be a problem. But when you actually grow, and what Oren and someone who's mastered this, he's able to say, no, like, if you want to work on the deal, here's how it's going to go. Because early on, when you started this, he was talking about, I want to control the deal, not the people. I don't care. The people will align to my values or they won't. But at the end of the day, when a deal starts and it's my deal, I let them know, this is my deal. Here's how it's going to work. This is the deadline. Can you get it done or not? It's fair, but I'm being kind, but I don't have to be polite. But we do have a deal to get done.
Let me give one like method to stick your nose, because I hear a lot of people like, I could never say that, or I work in a company. Like if I talked like that, I'd be out on the street. I'm saying it at a very high state of intensity. It's a podcast. This is entertainment, right? If I go, hey Ryan, what I want to do is really, talk to you about values, importance of sticking to your knitting, And what we like to do is make sure that the moral code that we've identified, okay, we don't have a podcast. So I'm saying it at a high level intensity. I'm adding invective to it, tossing in a couple words you don't see in the Bible here and there. So you may be saying, if you're new to this, I could not do that. You'll get there. But let me give you a way to nose in to this that is amazing. When you're come to a Zoom call with somebody who perceives themselves as higher status, more valuable, and more powerful than you, 110% for sure, they came to the call late, 3 minutes late, 5 minutes late, 7 minutes late, and you sat around going, hey, this, I can tell you this, come to a call 2 minutes late with me, you're going to find crickets, right? Like, I don't put my full ego on display, but like, hey, if you get a call with Oren to talk about, putting $20 million in your company, can't figure out, either how to say, hey, I'm going to be 5 minutes late, no problem, and you just don't show up, then I'm like, okay, on to the next thing, because I'm busy, right? But for sure, and don't take this the wrong way, it's much more likely if I feel like I have $20 million, you have a small company, I got lots of companies like you, I'll probably come to the call 4 minutes late, because that's when somebody perceives themselves as higher status than you, they will take risks around you they would not take with their peers or their superiors. So when I need $20 million, guess when I come? 5 minutes early, right? When I'm giving $20 million, then guess when I come? 5 minutes late. That's the way it functions. If you live in some alternate universe, it doesn't. I'd be surprised. Tell me about it. But that's the way it works. So anyway, so the guy who perceives himself more powerful than you comes 5 minutes late. We got to notch him back down to reality, right? And it just goes like this. Hey, Ryan, welcome to the 2:07 call, because the 2 o'clock call started a few minutes ago. Let me get you caught up. Are you good now? Right? However you could say that in whatever tone of voice, 100% of billionaires, hedge fund managers, private equity guys, venture capital guys, captains of industry will turn around and say to me, I'm sorry, I got hung up. I was like, it's COVID. There were 37 boats that we're responsible for that are delivering like toys to small children and orphanages. I had to organize those. But everybody knows like coming to a call 7 minutes late is bullshit. So it just is, right? Not that there wasn't a reason for it. It's just, everybody in our culture knows the value of time. So you go, hey, are you here for the 2:07 call? I will, Ryan will, everyone go like, I'm so sorry, Joe Peon. Like, it doesn't matter who you are, you're the valet guy. The billionaires will apologize to the parking guy around time, because in our culture, we understand the value of time. No billionaire that I know, nobody managing $1 billion hedge fund be like, yeah, so what? I wasted 7 minutes of your time. Like, why are you hung up on it? Nobody will do that. They're like 100% of them go, I'm sorry, which is a great way to start a call with a billionaire apologizing to you. So the call just starts like, hey, and try this, with your friends, with your colleagues, with people around you. And it seems like a crazy thing to do, but you will love it. You'll just be going all day. Hey, Jim, you here for the 2:03 call? Right? And like, oh man, I'm so sorry. I know I should have come early, but I had just saved this little old lady. Car was like going to run her over. And then she was like thanking me and wanted to give me $5. I was trying to put it back in her pocket. But yeah, I'm here now. I'm focused. Like, I'll make it up to you. Right. So you can start to see the status games and the power games of like, where is the integrity? And everybody in our culture knows the importance of integrity around time. Nobody will say like, hey man, so what? I came to the call late. Calm yourself down. So you can start there and start to see it happening for real. And that's a really fun, and people will laugh at it and try it out. And that's a fun way you can nose your way into the world of status and power.
Man, so you seem very astute, student, we'll say, of human nature and power moves within those human natures and those dynamics through people. Do you feel like understanding, because a lot of times we'll talk about pitching and here's how you say the right thing and here's you got to present your thesis and do you put a mission statement in your slide deck, whatever, right? So we have all these tactical things. Sure, that's fine. You got to write something down. But it sounds like, just talking to you and on our show and our time together, that the highlight on everything to have someone with your background, and you're talking about human nature, power moves, and just how that interaction of face-to-face works. Do you find like understanding how the rise to power and human interaction, do you find like that is a big part of how you're able to be successful in raising capital?
No one will do a deal with you if they perceive themselves as higher status and more powerful than you. Until they believe that you are a peer and an expert in what you do, and that they are appreciative of the opportunity to work with you, and that they do not hold leverage over you, they will not close a deal with you.
Well said. Shifting gears, I'm curious, from all of your experience in understanding human nature and writing all these books and raising all this money, man, you've been a busy guy. I'm wondering if you have like 4 or 5 things that you found to be the most helpful that maybe you can leave behind some cheat codes with all that experience for our fans around the world. We've got 100 countries. We'd love to hear from the master himself. What are maybe 4 or 5 things you found to be absolutely impactful when raising capital?
So that's great. I thought you were going to say for a moment, you raised capital, you wrote a couple books, you're involved in a couple companies, on the board of a company, working with a big Italian firm. It sounds like you, and I thought you were going to say, it sounds like you have no life.
Well, that would be an insult to me as well. Yeah. So I'm right there with you, brother.
Was going.
How about I have a show that I insult my guests? Let's do that. Yeah.
Listen, you don't need that show where you insult your guests when your guests will just insult themselves. All right. So that's the secret there. Yeah. I wrote down a little list for you guys that I thought were some takeaways. You come on a show like this, you hear a big dick guy like Oren talking about $20 million, $100 million, $1 billion, right? And you can start to fetishize this world and be like, yeah, I want to get in that. The reality is, the way that I got in here is 20 years of asking for, honing the ability to ask for small checks. You cannot skip over small checkville and go into big boy land, right? I don't see any like middle school football players going to the NFL. Guess what they do? They go to high school, and then they go to junior college, and then they go to college, and then 1 in a million of those guys goes to the NFL, where they hit really hard. You can read Medium articles, you can be on a podcast like this, but you have to understand like the 10, 5, 10, 20, $50 million world is the NFL. Super hard hitting. You get your bones broken and your career ended in one hit. Like that is not a good starting place, even though it seems like it, because you can read those articles and be like, yeah, I started the company. I'm like, those are lottery winners. Don't worry about that. So the takeaway is learn how to ask for $25,000 checks from people and get them. Scale up to $100,000 checks, because you can do that inside your community, inside people you know, and go cold for larger money once your skill set has improved a bit. Don't set yourself up for failure by jumping into cold approach $1 million asks. You're just like, you're just going to get your butt handed to you. Because you can, I see, colleagues or friends or people, they think it's like sales, where like you never sell none. You can literally get hit bet 0 for 100 all day long in that world. So learn to ask for small checks before you start thinking about going into a larger. I think the next thing is, if you're an entrepreneur and you're looking for money, understand what a minority control deal is. So, investors who come in and are providing you money are going to want control. Of course they are, right? But those control provisions are real. Like they can't take your equity away, but they can fire you. Or they can make your life miserable. This is what I tell most of my CEOs. The first day you take venture capital will be the last day you enjoy working at your company, because most venture capital deals are minority control deals. And you're like, I have a job. Like, yeah, I have equity in the company. And then I used to run this company, but now I took a minority control deal and I have a job and I hate it. I hear that 10 times a week. So learn what a minority control deal is. And I think the third thing is, I find people, they want to know like how to find investors. And I think that's the wrong mission. I think it's how to find groups of investors and be efficient, rather than find one investor and trying to convince them to give you $1 million. Find a group of investors, and try and suck, $10, $500,000 checks out of there, right? So find groups of people and pull smaller checks out, rather than find one group and try and convince them to give you one large check. So groups rather than individual investors. And I think the fourth thing is, recognize investors buy the stock of your company. They don't buy the product. They don't buy the company. They don't buy excitement. They don't buy the mission that you have. They don't buy the benefits. They may never use the product and might not even understand the product. What they understand and want to buy is the stock of the company. So when you're meeting with an investor, you're selling them the stock of your company. And that's what the pitch is about, right? Not the product. I will pitch the product of the companies that I'm in when I'm talking to investors for 3 minutes. Like, investors are smart. They're like, yeah, I get it. Oh, you make a supercar that goes faster than Porsche and, has whatever, and it's super and carnets, and great. But how do I make money in the company? Oh, you make software that does accounting but uses AI and it's better than Intuit. Okay, good. I got it. I don't need an hour meeting explaining your AI accounting software. What is the stock of the company I'm buying, and how is my money going to make the business better, and how is the stock going to go up? And then how am I going to get liquidity and get my money back? That's what you're selling. So 3 minutes on the product and 57 minutes on the security that you're selling. And then I think if you listen back to this, which I'm not sure you should or could or would, but hype and FOMO are the two things you can control. Hype up the deal in terms of explain what's exciting about it. Like positive. I'm going to turn hype into an acronym like Halo, Yippity, personality, extremism, whatever, right? But you need to think about talking about the best aspects of the deal, what's exciting about it, and then setting a firm timeline that you would miss out. So the hype is exciting, and the FOMO is the fear of missing out, or the timeline, and that's how are the two control mechanisms from Wall Street all the way to Silicon Valley to get deals done, hype and FOMO. So those are the 5 things. Jot those down, figure out how to do that stuff, and you are now like the world's greatest deal maker, at least better than me, for sure. Because those are the things that took me a long time to learn, and you can just learn them as today and start doing them tomorrow.
I love that. So what are some of the things that you've done to build hype and FOMO? If you can leave behind some how tactics, are there any things you can distill down as far as things people can do?
So hype is how things are changing, right? Things are changing so dramatically. There is unmet demand for what we do. And we have a jaw-dropping solution that is a perfect fit for all the pent-up demand because of how things have changed, right? Hey, like, what does that sound like? I don't know. A tornado or a hurricane went through Florida like today or yesterday, right? Turns out that there is now an insane demand for synthetic 2x4s. And we have a logistics helicopter delivery system for remote delivery of synthetic 2x4s. And we are raising money today to be able to ship 100 million synthetic 2x4s to the immediate demand in the state of Florida. Great. I just hyped the deal.
Perfect. Just to summarize everything that we talked about, learn to ask for 25,000, work your way up on these smaller checks first. Get comfortable for asking for money. The second thing that Oren talked about is understand what a minority controlled deal is. Make sure that you master those things. Third is learn how to find groups of investors more than just individual. Seek out groups. Number 4 was learn to sell what investors are actually seeking to buy. They're less interested in your product than they are on how they get paid. Make sure they understand what your deal means to them, not just why you care. Make sure you address the areas that they care about. And finally, please understand, according to Oren, and I would agree, the only thing that closes deals is hype and FOMO. You do these things, and you too will be well on your way in your pursuit of making billions.
Wow. What a show. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Now, if you haven't done so already, be sure to leave a comment and review on new ideas and guests you want me to bring on for future episodes. Plus, why don't you head over to YouTube and see extra takes while you get to know our guests even better. And make sure to come back for our next episode where we dive even deeper into the people, the process, and the perspectives of both investors and founders. Until then, my friends, stay hungry, focus on your goals, and keep grinding towards your dream of making billions.